Welcome to the Esthetician Podcast, where passion meets prosperity. Your host, Carrie Jo Patterson, transformed from a solo esthetician into a successful business owner, achieving ultimate time and financial freedom by the age of 38. Carrie is the author of Fearless Prosperity, empowering estheticians to build their empire and achieve financial freedom, and the creator of the Empire Growth System for estheticians. Get ready for some empire-building wisdom. Now welcome your host, Carrie Jo Patterson.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Esthetician Podcast. I am so stinking excited for today's episode because I have a powerhouse guest coming and joining me today. Her name is Helen Coquin, and she is a licensed medical esthetician. She's been in this industry for 10 years, and she has done some seriously impressive things like generating $1 million in sales with a global skincare company. She scaled her own business, Skin Bar, to a 2.5 million in just 2 years, guys. Like, that is not something that anybody does. Trust me, I've built a business, I've sold it. You just don't, that's hard. And now she is launching Chic MD. It's a training software that is helping estheticians master their sales, grow their business. And what I love most about Helen is she's not just about numbers. She is passionate about teaching estheticians how to connect with their clients, how to sell with confidence, and how to get a life, live a life outside of work as well. So I am so excited. Helen, welcome to the show. I have so many questions for you, but first I want to start off with the biggest one. 1 million in sales in a year? Like,
Mm.
how did you get that? How did you do that?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat. And yeah, so really for me, it's all about strategy and figuring out strategic ways of not selling, but how I can be of value to people. And so with that role, the 1 million in sales in a year, I was a sales rep. And so I was actually calling on medical spas, derm practices. And I really had to figure out when I was talking to each practice, just like you would a client, and talking to each client, how you meet their needs. And that's how you're going to approach their sales, right? You have to kind of be a chameleon in your approach and figure out, are they, for me in that role, it was really, are they wanting to grow their business through product? Are they more about teaching clients? Are they more about sales and doing events? And you kind of shape how you speak to somebody based on like value you can create for them. Because some clients, right, when you're an esthetician, some clients really want to be educated on what the product does, and others really don't want that at all. They just want to be told how to use it and when. So it's really adjusting that goal of like, how can I contribute to that person in the best way instead of creating this kind of like blanket sales strategy that you would do copy and paste for every person, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. I don't know if you read it, but I followed, and it wasn't in his book. It was like on a podcast or episode where he was talking, Robert, and he was talking about how his rich dad told him, like, you've got to get really good at sales. And so he's like, what you should go do is like go do MLM so
Mhm.
that because they're like masters of selling. And so I'm
Yeah.
like, that makes sense why you built this big business of like $2.5 million, right? Is because you learned the art of selling when you were being a sales rep.
It's really funny that you say that because I actually grew up going both my parents were in sales. And so I actually grew up in Atlanta on the weekends selling Krispy Kreme donuts to car dealerships because my dad wanted to teach me how to go up and speak to people. And this was when I was like 6 and 7 years old. Go up and speak to people, sell to them, and then how to, talk them through any kind of reservations that they had when buying something. So it's just funny that you like bring up teaching your children how to sell, because that's definitely how I
Yeah,
got started.
I love that. Like, that is so funny. I think actually that is like your niche, like something that you're like so good at is because what kids do that, like, you learn that at an early age, and
Mhm.
honestly, like, your ability to make money really depends on your ability to sell, and so, like, look
Yeah.
at you.
And
Like,
well, and realistically, almost every single job, regardless of what you're in, it is a customer service or a sales job. Unless you're just not speaking to people ever on a daily basis, you are in a customer service job.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And, so I learned, like and from talking to you in, like, before we, like, jumped on the podcast and stuff like
Mhm.
that, you talked a lot about, how you leverage emotional connections to build trust. So, can you walk me through, like, what does it actually look like to
Mhm.
build that trust, maybe during a service, maybe from the moment a client walks in to a client that walks out?
Yeah, absolutely. So I always say that if you wait until the end to talk about any kind of product or make any kind of sale, you've already lost it. You've lost the sale because realistically, you want to make that sale in the treatment room because people are feeling really vulnerable when they talk about their skin, they talk about products, and when you kind of put up them at the on the spot at the end of a treatment, they already have other things on their mind. They're thinking about their grocery list, they're thinking about going to pick up their kids, whatever it may be. And so, my biggest recommendation is you start from the very beginning. So, as soon as you see them and kind of building that trust, it's also remembering things about them, making little notes about anniversaries, right? They want to be able to trust you and they need to know that you get them, see them, know them, right? And so it's kind of building that trust over time, but also it's really having those conversations in the treatment room. So having like, what products are you using? Are your goals for your skin? What's your budget? I know that feels kind of uncomfortable sometimes to be having, or you don't want to disrupt their facial with these kind of conversations. But the reality is, those are the moments when it's just you and them and they're in the facial and you're looking at their skin that they can ask questions about, why do I need this vitamin C? Or is this like something that I actually need? Or how would I use this? Or gosh, how much is that? Because I can only spend $150 on on product
Mhm.
or whatever. And then they don't feel confronted, right? And so you can kind of get those normal reservations out of the way. And by the end of the treatment, you're just pulling the product and telling them how to use it, right? And so it becomes a conversation instead of a sales strategy because you're having that chat all along the way of, hey, oh my gosh, your skin, how's your skin doing? It's looking, and they're saying it's looking dry because it's winter and everybody's skin is
Yeah.
potentially looking dry. And you're like, oh, okay, so what products are you using? I really, questions are your best friend. And I think a lot of times when estheticians are getting those pushbacks from clients of being like, oh, I love my products, the way you combat that are questions. And you have to figure out the right question. You have to be that detective to figure out what question is going to give you that like opening of the door to make the sale. So
Mm.
I think it's really important to like continue to coach that conversation until you find that opening, especially if somebody's really hesitant.
Yeah, I love that, and actually, it's so funny. I love how you put that. When you hear something, like something. Well, I don't even know how to say what I'm saying, but I love what you said about how if you wait until the very end of, you've already lost the step, and it's so funny because I've always taught like all my girls when I was like training and stuff like that. We always did do the sell in the beginning, but I
Mhm.
didn't realize that that is really why it worked,
Mhm.
and when you said that, I was like, "That is why it works," because if you really do wait until the very end when they're walking out, and then you're like, "Oh, let me tell you why you want this." It is a sales pitch.
It is a sales pitch. It feels so salesy and they feel really on the spot. They're not able to ask their questions. They feel a little bit more pressure. And it feels very much like, okay, you're relaxed after your service. They also might be in that like post facial haze. They're not thinking clearly. They just are feeling relaxed and their mind is already elsewhere, right? They already have their to-do list of something else because we all have busy lives. So like when you wait, it's going to come off salesy 100% of the time. So having those conversations where they can kind of give you pushback and you can answer those is 100% how you have to go from like salesy to more authentic.
Yeah. Okay. Now you just said another word that I got to jump into,
Yeah.
which is you want to get their pushback
Hmm.
because I've read so many sales book and
Yeah.
they literally talk about like, and that's where estheticians like, they don't like
Hmm.
the pushback.
Makes them nervous, usually.
Yes, and
Yeah.
you're like, you gotta get it, you gotta
Yeah,
seek
you
the pushback,
do.
and so, like, why do you want that? Like, and
Yeah, because I think in my experience and having a lot of estheticians that work for me and that I've, trained and coached, I think they get nervous to continue the conversation. So for example, like if I was doing a facial and I'm talking to them about product, I'm saying, "What product are you using?" And they say, "I'm using The Ordinary," or "I'm using Drunk Elephant." And in your head as an esthetician, you're like, "Oh my gosh." Um, and you're like, "Oh, do you like it?" And they and because that's my next question. I'm like, "Oh, how's that going for you?"
so good.
And they say, "I love it." Then I think most estheticians, in my experience, or if you're a newer esthetician, you don't know how to combat that. And so you'll go, "Oh, okay, great." And then you just stop the conversation because you don't want to make them feel uncomfortable. And you don't want to make them feel uncomfortable, but you have really lost such a golden opportunity because how I would approach that situation is, "Hey, oh my gosh, what products are you using?" And they say, "Drunk Elephant." And I say, "Do you like it?" And they say, "I love it." And my next question is, "Okay, great. What results are you seeing from that? Why did you pick that?" And I say it really nicely, but I say, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing," right? I validate them so that they
Mhm.
don't feel uncomfortable or like they have to become defensive. "Okay, that's amazing. I love that you found products that you love. Are you seeing the results that you want?" And we know that it's gonna be no, or that they
Yeah.
don't even know what results they're supposed to be getting. And that opens up that conversation. So instead of just cutting it off and being scared and saying, like, "Okay, great," you've opened up them saying, "What should I be seeing?" You're like, "Well, what products from them are you using? Are you using vitamin C?" And then you have this really great education moment that you would have lost otherwise.
Yeah.
You've made the sale because they're asking those questions and they want to know, they're picking your brain. They want to know why that product isn't good or what they should be doing instead. And then you got them, right? And it's
Mhm.
not like a sales strategy, but it's really educating because we know that those products aren't going to get them the results that they want. And teaching them why that vitamin C is going to oxidize really quickly because it's not stable, and why a medical grade vitamin C or a better vitamin C is going to have better efficacy for them. And you kind of create that moment when you push past those hurdles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That yes, I love you are like you're kind of a sales genius. I love it. I'm like, this I get this girl. I like she's on everything that I've read. She knows what she's talking about. So okay, since we're talking about products,
Yeah.
one of the biggest struggles that I hear from estheticians all the time is getting past that objection of
Mhm.
like whether it's the price or they're like, "Oh, I have to think about it," or "I already have products at home." What's your go-to strategy for like these pushback scenarios?
Yeah. So again, I think that goes back to figuring out where you add value for somebody and being really strategic in that. And I'm really honored when somebody asks me those questions or gives me that pushback because it allows me to kind of build that relationship with them a little bit deeper.
Mhm.
So I actually like love pushback because I really like bring it down to their level and I'll say, "I want to work with your budget. I'm not going to take one, I'm not taking away anything that you love. We'll make it work. If you really love something and I think it's terrible, I'll let you keep it because I want you to love your process and it's not about me. And I want to work within your budget. So if you're telling me your budget is, $200 and this is what you can do, then I'm going to say, let's stick with your cleanser. Let's stick with, your moisturizer. Let's get you on a really good SPF and let's put you on a retinol or let's put you on a vitamin C, something that I know is going to create a good impact in your skin. And then next month, when you have, a little bit more money to do something, we'll add it in this way. And I think people come in with the expectation that you're going to try to sell them everything all at once and they get really nervous because we've all had that experience, whether it's been in a big box store or a makeup store or whatever. We get those people that come at you and want to sell you a million things and then you go home and think, what the heck did I even buy? I don't know how to use this. Right? You get that like
Yeah.
buyer's remorse and you lose trust. People have lost trust in the process because they've had that experience over and over. And so I think it's more important to build the trust because you're going to have a lot more longevity with that client. They're going to buy more from you over time. So I think it's focusing less on making the sale that day and how do I build the trust because that's going to make you more money over time and getting to their level. So I'm never the one to be like, you like that cleanser? It's terrible. You need to be on this because that immediately makes people defensive, right? And
Mhm.
so it's more of meeting them where they're at. If you only wash your face with water and maybe you put on a moisturizer once a week, I'm not selling you 6 products. You're not going to do it, right? Like that they're going to feel overwhelmed and they're not going to like it. So instead, I would probably say like let's put you on a really good cleanser and SPF and then next month when you feel like you've gotten that down, then we'll add something else when you're ready. And I think that makes people feel taken care of. I think they feel heard and really listened to. And at the end of the day, we all want to just be heard and seen. And
Mhm.
you're creating a position where they're not going to go anywhere else because you know them, right? Like your hairdresser. They know how to do your hair. You love how they do your hair. You're not going to go just see another hairdresser because they were on Groupon because you know that your hairdresser knows your hair. You want to get to the same place with skin where my esthetician knows my skin. I would never go somewhere else because I don't want to wreck what she's done, or I trust her so much that I wouldn't just go see somebody else because, right?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think what you said about the trust, like when you say to your clients, like, listen, if you don't like it, like, keep it
Mhm,
whatever, because that is a whole trust moment. What I love about what you said is specifically about how you're like, what is your budget? And I will work with that. And
mhm.
why I like that is because I feel like there is a big taboo around finances,
Yeah.
around money.
Mhm,
And I don't and unless you confront the barrier, you know,
mhm.
like it's always going to be there. And I think it was so smart how you're like, what is your budget? Let me work with it. Like it shouldn't be taboo.
Yeah, and realistically, I have found that when you tell people no, they immediately wanna know why you're telling them no, and it's that, like, they've been sold everybody's been sold on a million things a million times, and they don't really get told no by somebody that's a salesperson a lot, and so when you tell them, like, "No, I don't want you to get that today," they're like, "But I can, but wait,
Mhm.
why?" You're like, "Well, we're gonna save that for a few months from now," and it just brings down those barriers. They're ready to listen to you, whereas kind of a lot of people come in with on guard because they don't want to be sold a million things. So I think
Mhm.
it's like also working through those hard conversations. And you have to meet people where they're at. If you're thinking that their budget's going to be $800 and their budget's $100, you're talking a totally different language from them and you've lost them immediately. Right. So I think having the information is most important.
Yeah. That's yes. I love that. So, okay. I I want to go into some rapid fire scenarios here.
Okay.
Okay. So you have a client. She
Yeah.
is super interested in a product, but
Mhm.
she hesitates during checkout. What is your best closing line that could turn it into a maybe yes?
Okay, well, if she's hesitating during checkout, I've already not done my job because, right?
Yes.
Because we should have already had that conversation. I should already understand her hesitation. So if I've done my job correctly, I already know what the hesitation is, and I can talk her through it. So really, you shouldn't be having that.
You're like, so that's a non-issue. Non-issue. Do your job, and it won't be an issue.
But I
That's
also
true.
have a way, if I really felt like somebody was hesitant, I also have a way to be like, what's the hesitation? But it's because I want to talk them through it, right? Like if I sense a
Uh-huh.
hesitation, I'll be like, okay, I feel like you're hesitating. Like, what, how can I help you through that? Um,
I love that you like again the barrier. Like you're
mhm.
like, I can tell you're hesitant.
Yeah,
Instead of
people
I
want to be
know they're hesitant, I'm not gonna say anything. Like,
I know. And people want to be seen and heard. So realistically, always put yourself in the client's shoes because if I was a client and I felt like I got sold and somebody put up a product that I wasn't real sure about and they're like, "Okay, this is what you need. Let's check you out for today." And I was like, "Oh." And they said nothing and I bought it because I am a people pleaser and I don't like confrontation. And so I buy it and then I get in my car and I think I hated how that felt and I'm never going back. Right? Instead,
mhm.
if I feel hesitant and she was like, "Okay, what's the hesitation?" And I was able to, like, communicate that with her, I would leave feeling supported, right?
Yeah.
And so I
Yes.
think going from the esthetician doesn't wanna, like, put them on the spot, but you've lost that client if you say nothing. So it's better to, like, talk it through.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. I love that. Now, and I love that you're like, you didn't do your job. That's why you're getting asked. You didn't say that, but I'm gonna say it to
It's
everybody.
true.
Everybody, if you get to the hesitation, you didn't do your job. You just
Yep.
listen to Helen here. Okay, she knows what she's doing. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Okay, so we talked a lot about sales, which I think you are phenomenal at. That's why your numbers are the way that they are, is you've learned that. But I feel like you also are so great at setting boundaries. And so if we can jump into like the business side, for all my listeners that have a business, maybe they have employees, maybe they don't, whatever. What is your best advice for setting boundaries, especially around things like last minute cancellations or hey, can you just squeeze me in really quick?
Mhm. Yeah, so I'm probably a terrible person to ask that question because I, have had to really learn boundaries. I think a lot of estheticians in this industry are people pleasers, and for good reason. You get into it because you wanna help people and you care about people, and, so it's hard to create those boundaries and figure out, when you kind of put down the line. I think having policies are great. Um, so that way you can kind of fall back on, well, it's policy and this is why we have to charge you a late fee. And kind of explaining it to people. I think more information is better. So I have figured out how to put boundaries in those areas. And then I kind of make it work sometimes for the right people, right? For good
Mhm.
clients who you cherish and you love, like I do kind of squeeze them in when I can. And that way they know that I work with them. And, when I do have to say no, it's for good reason.
Yeah, I like that. I feel like in this industry, if you get on and you listen to coaches or whatever, and they're like, no, never make an exception. Like, do you know what I mean? But I feel like there is an exception to every rule, like you're saying. Like sometimes it makes the client feel special.
Yeah, and your business is people, right? And so your biggest referral source are your clients. And sometimes when you make those adjustments for people, that gives them that feeling of like, and for the right people, right? The people that take advantage of you
Mhm.
and they're canceling 3, 4 times in a month, or they cancel the reschedule and you're like, this person does not value me, then put your foot down, make the boundary. But the people that value you and buy the products that you're recommending and see you every month and bring you a gift at Christmas, those kinds
Yeah.
of clients that we love that refer to all their friends, you should make adjustments for them because they're likely to then recommend you to even more people because they see what you've done for them. So
Yeah.
I think it's not a hard and fast boundary.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like so you've grown such a successful company and you're doing another one. So I feel like there's so many boundaries that do have to be put in place when you're growing a business. And so how do you personally stay firm on your policies without feeling bad or
Mhm.
without losing clients or business?
Yeah. So I do think policies are policies. And so aside from making those adjustments for the right people, I think that it's important to kind of set the standard, set the tone for it. And we're busy. I have 5 estheticians, they see 12 people a day, and we're fast moving. It's very busy. And if somebody comes 30 minutes late, like we can't see you. And that really comes down to, hey, I'm sorry, we're going to have to reschedule you. And I think the people that are going to be really upset by that are really the people you don't want anyway. 20% of your people are going to cause 80% of your problems. And I think it's important to weed those people out. And I think new estheticians a lot of times are so hungry for the business that you'll say yes to everybody and you'll not see that maybe those people aren't right for you because really realistically there's a lot of people that you're never going to make happy, you're never going to please, and let them go.
Let them go.
Let them go. Wish them the best. They have the day they deserve. And wish them well. Because really those are the people that you mess up one time or your kid gets sick and you have to reschedule and they're going to write you a bad review. Right? And so it's just
Mhm.
not worth your time. Like, and I know when you're hungry for that business, you think everybody's valuable, but really you want to put your time and effort into the people that aren't going to be like that because life is short.
Yeah. Absolutely. I learned that with my company. I was like, "Man, time is so valuable." Like, you gotta be wise with who you give
Mhm.
it to. So you're on to building okay, we'll come back to skin bar, but I'm gonna go on to this new training software that you're making. I wanna know all about it. Tell me all the things.
Yeah. So we really found, and I found through the skin bar that I would have estheticians come in and they were either newer estheticians or didn't have a lot of sales experience. And it's all these things that we've been talking about today, right? They just don't know how to overcome those conversations. They don't know how to adjust in those sales strategies. And I started out as a solo esthetician and I a long, forever ago. And I really realized that marketing and those kind of strategies to get clients, I used to like sit and be like, am I just supposed to fish people off the street? Like, how am I supposed to get clients? And so we really created a platform where we talk about business coaching, sales strategies. We talk about how to, if you're a solo esthetician, how to do your taxes efficiently, or what are the best ways to maximize your sales and be able to make money while you're on vacation, and kind of a well-rounded thing. We also talk to plastic surgeons, dermatologists, what to look for on the skin. So it's really a well-rounded education platform. And then I really saw a need for these solo estheticians to, a lot of them can't access medical grade skincare, whether you don't have a medical director, and that's expensive to be able to bring on product lines, or the opening order minimums are huge and you
Mhm.
just can't do all of that as a solo esthetician trying to build your business. So it's also a sales platform so that estheticians can sell through us, make commission. You don't have to hold any inventory. You don't have to worry about products expiring and sitting on your shelf, and you just are able to set up your clients with medical grade products and make commission, so that you can make it in and out of the treatment room and build your business without having to worry about losing money.
Man, that was smart. That was a need in this industry, man. Like, because I'm not gonna lie, it was easy for me. My husband is in the medical field, so I was like, "Hey, can I
Yeah,
use
you
your license?"
yeah. Yeah.
There are people that they don't have that, and then when you're growing, it's so expensive. So, what lines do you have?
I have all of them.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I think we have 22 brands because I think the problem is one, if you get the medical director and you spend $10,000 on an opening order with Revision or Skin Better
Mhm.
or any of those kinds of brands. The other problem, if you invest all of that into your business as a solo esthetician, and then your client sits down and says, well, I use Is Clinical. And you're like, well, I didn't invest all of my money into that, you know? So it's figuring out ways that you don't lose the sale too. And so being able to offer all of those brands without housing any inventory or worrying about opening orders and all of those extra things you would have to spend money on, you're able to
Mhm.
just be able to compete as a solo esthetician with these med spas, derm practices, and you can grow your business without having to worry about all of that stress of having to compete with the brands because your clients are going to buy them anyway. They might as well buy them from you because you're the one seeing their skin every month.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the why.
That that was good. I did not know that was out there, that
Yeah.
service is out there. I'm so glad I have you on my podcast. Let me advertise that for you guys. Like, how that is genius and so needed in our industry. So thank
Yeah.
you so much for solving
Mhm.
that. Okay, going back, 'cause I know we're going everywhere. We're going left and
No,
over
I love
and
it. I love
now
it.
we're going down the middle. Uh,
Mhm.
so, Skin Bar. I just
Mhm.
wanna know because you built this company and you built it up to $2.5 million. Like, that is okay, for any of my listeners that do not know, there is something, it is called the 1% Club. What
Yeah.
that is that most small businesses, over 50% of small businesses are owned by females, but only 1%, guys, 1% actually make it to $1 million in revenue. So,
Mm.
congratulations, you made it
Thanks.
past the 1% club. But I wanna know, what did you learn? Like, what was the biggest secret? What is your biggest takeaway?
Yeah. So, I think building a business is hard. There's lots of hurdles you have to go through. We doubled in size after the first year. So we doubled in space and we also doubled in our team size in a year. And it comes from a lot of, ups and downs, but I think really remembering your why, remembering the purpose. And for me, that was creating a space that was knowing your niche, right? So our niche for the Skin Bar is really millennials. It's that like in between space where you want more than a spa can offer and not quite ready to see a plastic surgeon. And you want a place that feels good and feels fun, but gives you the results that you want and can answer all of your questions, kind of like seeing your best friend every month that can just walk you through your skin journey with you. And keeping that concept of what I wanted and what we were contributing to our clients kept those days because you're going to have hard days. You're going to have days that feel impossible. You're going to have days that feel stressful. You're going to have to, for me, I've had to fire employees and that hurts my heart.
Mhm.
And doing those kinds of things, you have to kind of keep your goal in mind of the purpose that you're creating. And it kind of like drives you forward every day. So I think that's important because, having to be the bad guy or having to like build a team or manage women or, kind of doing all of those harder things when you realize your goal and you set those expectations and those standards. Like my team knows the standard and they know the why. And so every problem that comes up, we talk about why I care that much that that problem happened because client experience or how that client is supposed to feel. I want every client that walks through our door to feel seen and heard, to feel like it's a safe space for them, to feel encouraged, like it's their best friend answering their skincare questions, right? My team really understands the vision. And I think you have to keep that consistent as you grow because sometimes that's hard. It gets like fuzzy when you try to grow fast.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. It is all about the why, man. True, everybody. It's about the why.
Yeah.
So we're about to close up. We just have a little bit of time left, and I I built my company around fear. Everybody knows they're going to get asked this question if you come on my podcast, which is I want to know what was the greatest fear that you had to conquer in order to build the empire that you built, and how did you overcome it?
So I would definitely say imposter syndrome was a major fear. I think going into a lot of growth in business, you kind of ask like, why am I doing this? Am I okay to be doing this? Why is anybody listening to me? And I think having the conversation with yourself of, well, no, that, these are the milestones I've reached, kind of keeping a list of your successes to kind of coach you and cheer yourself on, because if you don't do it, who's going to? And saying like, no, I'm capable, this is why I've done this and this and this and here's why I can add value. And also changing the narrative of like, it's not really about me, it's, creating this platform. I could try to say why I'm this great person to be doing this, but really when it comes down to it is I just want to create a space where I can add value for others and what I contribute and kind of work through the imposter syndrome that way because that feels a bit safer for me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, imposter syndrome. I didn't realize, like, when I got into coaching, like, I didn't realize that. I mean, that was probably the biggest thing that you have to work through with every single person. It is big. So I
Yeah.
love you sharing that. Okay, before we go, I just want to know, how can my guests or my audience, they're not my guests, but how can my audience find you? Like, if they want to know more about you, if they want to know more about this software that you have going on, like, how do they do that?
Yeah. So my personal Instagram is Helen Coquin. And then Chic MD is my Chic MD on all platforms. So on Instagram, my Chic MD, and then our online is mychicmdacademy.com. And you can always go on and, ask to jump on a call, learn more. We're always happy to chat with you about what we offer.
Yeah, that's so good. And I will put it in the link below, guys, so you guys can click on it and make it real easy for everybody to find you. Helen, you are amazing. Congratulations on what you did. I know when you're at the top, like, nobody is there saying, "Good job, you did great." But I just wanna tell you, good job, you did great. And I'm so proud of what you built. You're so knowledgeable, and I loved diving into sales with you. I think you are going to help so many estheticians. So thank you for coming on my podcast today.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. It was so much fun. And I just appreciate the conversation.
Yes. Okay, guys. Well, we will talk to you well, you guys will hear me again on Fridays. So I'll see you then. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Esthetician Podcast with Carrie Jo Patterson. Each week, Carrie brings you real-world lessons on how to grow your empire. To learn more about Carrie's Fearless Prosperity Mastermind Group, one-on-one VIP coaching opportunities, and more, visit www.carriejopatterson.com. That's www.karijopatterson.com. See you next week for more insights and strategies on the Esthetician Podcast.